John Felt here. This is the Blue Water Outlook weekly weather briefing for August 15th, 2026. I've been talking about this heat dome now for a number of weeks, and heat dome is really impacting our nation's weather, either with very hot, excessive heat, if you're under the heat dome, or around the top of this heat dome, you're getting that ring of fire. And look at all the wind reports we've had so far. 1,200. So what we have is it forms usually late in the day and then it moves overnight right around the top of that, producing all the severe weather. So right now what we have is we have excessive heat warnings. In these areas are heat advisories. And we also are going to have today a moderate risk of those heavy downpours tomorrow into the Appalachians. And anytime you get that heavy rain in the Appalachians, you get a serious flash flood risk. So this is the area we're looking at. Once again, parts of Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and eventually parts of West Virginia and Ohio. And that's heavy rain and downpours. Now, the smoke situation has tampered down a bit. The more significant issues are in the Pacific Northwest with some wildfires in those areas, but it's really dry. So you can see wildfires, these little symbols here, are popping up in many spots because it's so dry. And you can see that on the drought monitor. Boy, look how much is in drought, including extreme or exceptional drought in the west. And also the mid-Atlantic. We have a lot of areas in drought right now, so we need more rain in those areas. And you can see here, this was the rain last week. It generally didn't fall over the areas that needed it the most. And this is that action track right in here. And that's where we had as much as 13 inches of rain over parts of Indiana, and a number of areas 8 to 10 inches of rain. That's where we've had these areas, lighter colors here, or that purple there. That's where we had the very dangerous and unfortunately fatal flash flooding. So as far as temperatures go last week, the greatest temperature departures as much as 10 to 12 degrees above normal, right over the central part of the plains. And anything in this brown above 100 degrees, central and southern plains, desert, southwest, California valleys. And look at this, 110 in Kansas last week. Now our rivers here are running high, very high. They're running above flood stage where we've had that very heavy rain, including some major flooding. That's the purple. And you can see that coming down, feeding into parts of the Mississippi. But many areas here are doing okay in the central U.S., but look at all the low flows. This is associated with the drought. So many areas of Pacific Northwest, very dry. Parts of the western U.S., very dry. Mid-Atlantic, even though we've had some rain, there's some very low flows in those areas as well. Now, I wanted to sort of talk about main stem rivers just for a minute. We start to, in fall, transport commodities down through the Mississippi. So these little bumps we're getting coming in, even though it's really not doing a whole lot, but these bumps that are coming into the Mississippi from, say, the Ohio tributaries and the Ohio, that's beneficial for the main stem river. So this is the Ohio here at Evansville. It's getting up into action stage, and that's working its way into the lower Mississippi, Natchez, and that's a beneficial rain to keep those rivers from hitting low flows under that heat dome. Now, speaking of heat dome, here's the next 5 days, and I think we're shifting from the central U.S. into the south central and the southeast U.S. as we go into this week. And then perhaps as we get into late August, it shifts into the southwest. And you can see this is August 20th through 25th. And this, look at this here. When I see a little dip in the jet stream here, sort of going like this, that little dip there, that often means that we're going to get a backdoor cold front sagging south and give some nice weather to parts of the Great Lakes and Northeast. And that extends into the end of the month. So here you can see it here. Look at the blue. Here's the blue. That's that reprieve, mid to late August reprieve. But that heat this week in the southeast U.S., dangerous heat index, and then shifting into the west. And this isn't good because this is where we have that drought and we need that rain. Take a look at the red and the purple. These are the dangerous heat index readings, and you can see this week generally over the south central and southeast U.S., Memphis, Birmingham, Atlanta, some dangerous heat this week. What about the tropics? Well, let's first look at the Atlantic. It looks like there was something trying to develop, but I think with El Nino, we're shearing off the top of these. It's having a hard time doing much, so I'll keep an eye on it. Right now, it looks sort of marginal. We may or may not get development. Right now, it's very low probabilities. On the other hand, the Pacific has been active. Lala, Tropical Storm Lala, is going to affect the big island of Hawaii today with tropical storm conditions. Okay, let's talk about rain. Here's our ring of fire right here. And like I said, very heavy downpours along that axis. Everywhere else, it looks pretty quiet across the nation. And if we look a little bit further, let's take a look at the next 2 weeks. Like I said, the greatest risk for that extreme heat, dangerous heat, is over the south central to southeast U.S. And looks elsewhere, it looks fairly quiet. Now, maybe we'll get a little monsoonal flow here. That'll bring some moisture into the west. I hope we do, because that would be a beneficial rain. Overall, here's week 2. Here's our heat dome. Looks like Texas is going to stay under that into the southeast. That's your briefing. Really not a whole lot of change. We're still talking about the heat dome, and we're still talking about the ring of fire. Have a great week. Take care.